This week, I am in the throes of finally recuperating from Snowmageddon 2025. The first weekend of 2025, here in Manhattan, Kansas, we got, according to official records, over 14 inches of snow in one day. But we measured here at our house with our own measuring tape, over 17 inches. It was nuts. I have never seen so much snowfall in one day. We were completely snowed in for 3 days. And finally, on the third day, the snowplows made it to our road, and we were able to get out, get to the store, restock the pantry and the fridge a little bit because all six of us had been stuck at home just eating through all of the provisions that we had. We had a lot to be grateful for, of course, that we through the whole thing had electricity and heat, and we had plenty of food in the house. We didn't go hungry, we weren't cold, and we weren't lonely, and that was such a gift for all of us, even though we were stuck inside for such a long time. But the kids were home from school for much longer than anticipated for Christmas break. I was calling it the Christmas break that just wouldn't end. They were one day shy of an entire 3-week Christmas vacation, and they finally got back to school at the end of last week, and I still feel like I'm just slowly starting to catch up and get back on track with everything. So I apologize for not getting a post out last week, but I was snowed in and just a little bit crazy. And so I am back at it this week. But like I said, I'm feeling behind, a little stressed out. And so for my resolutions this year for 2025, I wanted to choose 2 things that I could work on spiritually to grow and to add some devotions to my life. And so the 2 things that I chose this year were to listen every day to the Rosary in a Year podcast that Ascension is putting out, which has been a wonderful blessing. I'm really enjoying it. If you haven't started listening yet, you should. And you can totally catch up very quickly because they're not very long podcasts. And my other commitment for this year is to actually read the entire Bible in a year. So I've listened to Father Mike Schmitz's podcast of the Bible in a year twice, but I have never sat and at my own pace just read through the entire Bible. So that was my goal. And I had found this super awesome Bible in a year book, Bible. And it's broken up into, like, each day has set readings. There's a reading from the Old Testament, a reading from the wisdom literature, and then a reading from the New Testament for every single day for all 365 days. And this is the one that the Augustine Institute has produced. I know there are other versions out there, but the reason I have this one is because I actually found it for free in our church's little free Catholic library, which is awesome. People can bring Catholic books that they don't need anymore, that they've read, and they can pass it on to somebody else. And so I like to kind of poke through there whenever I'm at church, and I found this gem, and I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be a wonderful way to spend 2025? I'm going to read through the Bible. So January 1st comes around, I wake up, I'm so excited. I listen to my first Rosary in a Year podcast, and I read my first reading, and I check that box, and I'm feeling so good about myself. I'm so excited. And what happens? But January 2nd comes around, the kids are home from school, my husband's off from work, we're just having, a normal day at home, and I completely forget both of them. And so I wake up on January the 3rd and just throw up my hands and say, I've already ruined it. I have already blown 2025. Literally on January 2nd. It took me 2 days to completely blow my resolutions and my plans. I mean, I thought at least I would get like a month in before I started missing days, but no, it took me literally 2 days before I broke my own promise to myself and my own commitments to myself. And I was devastated. Like, I had made these plans. I felt so excited. I was committed going into it. And then I just didn't stick with it. And so I wanted to just quit. Maybe I'll try again next year. And I stopped myself. Because one of the things that I have really been working on is my own perfectionism, which shows and plays out in me in the form of thinking that everything that I do and everything that I try has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, and if it's not exactly the way that I want it to be, then I just throw it out and give up and say, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to make an effort. And I am starting to combat that because God does not call me to perfectionism. He does not call me to be perfect, but he does call me to be faithful. And so if I sit with that for a second, if I really think and let that seep in, that I am not called to be perfect. I am not called to do everything masterfully, and I am not called to not fail. What I am called to do is, when things aren't perfect, when things aren't masterful, and when I fall short, like I do over and over and over again, I get to stand back up, turn my face back to Christ, and continue to be faithful and to continue to try. And so this year, for 2025, I am committing to consistency and not perfection. So I'm curious, have you made any resolutions for yourself this year? Have you decided how you want to grow spiritually, or what your plan is to develop yourself, develop your spiritual life, develop your heart for Christ, or a devotion, learn about one of the saints, any of those options? I'd love to hear about them. But then more importantly, I want to know, what's your plan if you fall off, if you miss a day, if you forget, if you get snowed in and everything gets all your ideas and everything gets thrown out the window, and all of a sudden all your great plans are nothing? What do you do then? How do you continue to be faithful to Christ and to continue to grow, even when things don't go the way you planned, and even, and most especially, when you're not perfect? Because I have a feeling, just like me, you're not perfect all of the time. So that's all I have for you today. I'm Maria Riley, just a sinner in the throes of trying to be a saint. God bless.